Can communication and the dance of polarity help you attract not only the right partner, but the right clients? I am Pratna, and you're listening to Rebel with a Purpose. I'm so glad you're here because in today's episode, I've invited a very special guest, and her name is Nicola. She is a communication coach, and she is really going to dig deep and teach us about the balance of masculine and feminine in communicating to attract your aligned people into your life using both relationships, friendships, as well as business in play. So let's get into it. I'm so excited. Hi, Nicola. How are you doing?
Hi, Prarthana. I'm doing so well. How are you?
I'm doing good too. It's amazing to have you on this episode. I'm so excited to really dive into it. Just for our listeners, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. I'm so thrilled to be here. And I'm Nicola Navon. I'm a relationship communication coach. And so, what I do is I help you communicate in more magnetic ways that help deepen intimacy and that help us have a deeper influence in all of our relationships and have a lasting impact. Because when we work with our communication and we know how to communicate in skillful ways, it allows us to inspire people and motivate people to do what we want.
Hmm. I can see that just by the way you're communicating right now. Like you're a
Mhm.
complete embodiment. That's beautiful. Okay,
Thank you.
awesome. Now I have so many questions for you because I love talking about communication, and this is the first time I have someone who's really specialized in that. So I'm gonna ask away. So for the first question, I'm very interested in this, which is how does our communication style impact our relationships? And I want you to talk about like romantic relationships to friendships to even client coach relationships.
Yeah, I'm so happy to get nerdy with you on communication. I obviously love it too. And so, a lot of the work that I do, Parthana, and for those of you listening who may not know, it's also around balancing of our masculine feminine traits when it comes to how we communicate. Now, why does this matter? I'll give some examples because think of the masculine, it's the action. It's I'm asserting what it is I desire. I'm asserting my boundaries. I'm being directive in what it is I want. Now, on the feminine side, that's the ability to intuit. I'm reading you, partner. I'm reading you, team member, colleague, friend. I'm sensing your energy, how you're responding to me. I'm connected to the energetics of it. I'm asking you questions. I'm curious. I'm not just voicing my point of view, but what are your thoughts on that? How did that land for you? And so when we balance our masculine and feminine traits in communication, then we know how to communicate in ways that are assertive, but are warm. Because I used to always be really direct. And when we're really direct in our communication, that doesn't feel good for me. That's a boundary for me. I'm not okay with that. Uh, can we go, like, let's go out for dinner on Friday? You never plan the dates. Why don't you plan them this time? When we be really direct, it can feel heavy at times and it can cause closure in the other person. And so, how can we also bring in this element of, so we'll give the example of the dates. Let's say in the partnership, you had to land it. Instead of you never plan the dates, why don't you plan Saturday night? How do we use a little bit of play, right? That's also the feminine, the softness, the flow. Maybe it could be something like, I'm really craving a surprise this weekend. I know you have some amazing ideas in that mind of yours. Why don't you plan Saturday night? Tell me where to be, and I'll
Oh,
meet you there. Now, I'm using masculine energy. That's pretty direct, but it's a little more playful, where it's more invitational, that invites someone to lean in. Now, same thing with the boundary. Let's say someone crosses a boundary, a friend says something that's hurtful. You could say, I'm not okay with that. You hurt my feelings. I don't like that. You're disrespecting me. Or you could say, ooh, now we need our feminine and our communication to go inwards. What is it I'm feeling? What does that activate for me? And speaking to the feelings like, ooh, that's touching a wound for me. That's sensitive when we're when I'm telling you something vulnerable and you just go in and tell me how you try to fix me. You try to coach me. It makes me feel like I can't be vulnerable. And I'm noticing in my body closure where I don't want to share anymore.
Mm,
What are your thoughts on that?
mm,
Pause. Let it be awkward. Let it land. Let them respond. And it's this balance in our communication, balance of we can liken it to the reason I say masculine, feminine traits is that's also how the world understands certain traits,
mhm,
but different types of traits. How am I assertive, but how am I open and warm? How do I say what I want, but how am I curious about another's perspective?
mhm,
How do I command a room with my energy? And how am I also soft and playful and receptive to other people?
mm.
I'm going to pause for a moment. Yeah.
That was beautiful. That was amazing. I totally see it. Like, I can apply this to my life. Like, you've given me such tangible examples. So, thank you so much for that very beautiful answer. And I definitely understand the play between the masculine and feminine because, as you said, that's how the world understands it. That's how I understand it too. So, it really made it easier for me to understand your answer. Thank you so much for that. And to my next question, how could we communicate better on a sales call to lead to more aligned sales? Because you know
Mhm.
what I see in the coaching world, and I'm just going to say it, okay? I see that there's a lot of cold DMing or cold pitching. And not only that, I see people who start off with this question, which is now I see every coach asking me this question, which is, what are you most excited about in your business? And I know that they're a business coach. So when I see their profile and I see them asking me this question, I'm like, I know this is going to end in a sale. Like, I just know it. And then they ask me like really deep questions. And I'm just like, I just don't feel like engaging because I feel like it's not coming from genuine curiosity because everyone is doing it now and everyone's asking me the same question. It's the same question, which is like, what are you most excited about in your business? So I want to ask, like, how can you communicate more efficiently to lead to aligned sales where you don't make the other person feel like you're going to end up selling to them?
Great question. I'm really excited to dig into this topic because I teach on this topic in partnership, and this also applies in business. This is mastering the art of polarity. Now, what is polarity? Polarity is what creates magnetic attraction. It's how to invite someone to want to lean in, partner to lean in, your clients to lean in, potential clients to be in your world and want to engage in conversation with you.
Mm,
Now, you're probably feeling Prathana, which I feel too when people reach out to me. It's like it's repulsive, it's penetrative energy. It feels too intense, too aggressive. And so when we work with our communication, so let's say you're in the DMs and maybe someone's your coach, maybe someone's in your world, loves your work, comments on your work, you want to get some more information. Yeah. I actually feel if it's a fit, if you get to know them, see how you can help, if you can help. It's working with these energetics of polarity. So polarity is I'm not going to give you everything in one go. You think about in partnership. If someone tells you, or even with a friend, if someone tells you their entire life story in one story, you already fully know them. There's no excitement. There's no mystery.
mm,
Polarity, magnetic attraction is created through mystery. So how do you in the DMs, maybe someone commented on a post I shared about communication, and how maybe they resonated and they're like, yeah, this is something that's so challenging for me, and then I maybe in the DMs I could send something like, I'd like to see you rise to the challenge. Tell me more about that. Like bringing a little bit of playfulness, asking maybe one question, sharing maybe one response. If you have a client go dark on you, not a client, but a potential, this is something I've said in the past, what does that make you think about? Someone's leaving you hanging. Ooh, they got a king for the tease. Ooh, like they like a mystery. Speak to that dynamic in the DMs. Ooh, I see. Yeah, you like that you're dangling me like a little cat. You got a little cat toy. Yeah, you like to play. I see you like the silence, as do I. Game on. When you're ready, I'll be right here. And finding ways to play in the DMs and with our clients, with our potential clients, always, that's why I say above all, we play. Because when we play, when we give just little bits here and there, it invites people to lean in. And if I'm saying everything at once,
Hmm.
I can receive. They don't need to lean in towards me.
Hmm. Hmm. I love that element of mystery, like, not seeing everything at once, but really like taking it as it goes and taking it slow. You don't need to rush it, right? Because I remember once when I invested in a coach, we had a few hours. It was the first call, I had a call with her, and within a few hours was the actual first call of the a workshop of the course. And I was like, oh my God, I just have 4 hours to make this investment decision. I don't know what to do. And I remember in those 4 hours, I was texting her, and she just, even though we just had 4 hours, she was taking it so slow with me. And I just loved that she was going so slow. Like, she was in no rush at all that I pay her instantly. She was taking it so slow. And I feel like that amount of safety that I felt in that conversation, I've made sure ever since that conversation that I inculcate that kind of safety in every call I have with every potential client here in forward, right? So it was just beautiful to have that space to like be myself, to reflect my objections or what was coming up for me in the moment, and have that slowness, right? So like I totally understand what you're saying.
Yeah. And this is it. And it's also it's reading the energy of the person. It's also doing our research. I hate when people come up to me, business coaches, and they don't actually research who I am.
Hmm.
Something so quickly and it's not actually aligned.
Hmm. Oh,
So
that's
then it
happened
feels like,
so
oh,
many
you don't
times.
even know me, right? You don't even know me. You're pitching something on empowerment, and I'm posting all about my own empowerment
Yeah.
and all the and so sometimes it feels so it's also reading a room, it's reading people, and that's the feminine energy.
Hmm. Yeah, the feminine
Feeling how
energy.
people speak, watching their reels. How do they engage? What kind of emojis do they use? How do they communicate? Also matching that.
Oh wow, that's amazing advice. Yeah, I never thought of that, but I know I do this on a call, on a sales call or a consult call, but when it comes to in the DMs, I actually don't do that. And that's such a really, really amazing advice or suggestion that I could inculcate for sure. So thank you so much for that. That's amazing. And when we spoke about feminine, I wanted to ask you, how does what does healthy feminine and unhealthy feminine in your business look like?
Ooh, good question as we apply it to business. So I'm going to go with both because in my works, we both have masculine and feminine energies, different levels of both, pending where we are in our life, pending our childhood. And so in business, both. First, I'll say unhealthy because this is easier to identify. Unhealthy masculine in business would be
Mm-hmm.
do, 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 do. I'm exhausted. I'm burned out because I'm not focused on the nourishing the other side of me, which is my feminine, which is my sense of being. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to also take time to reflect in my business. What's working?
Mm-hmm.
What's not? Celebrate my wins. Think about my programs holistically, how I want to enhance them. Where can I hone? Like it's also owning the reflection side of the business that's not necessarily about actively producing in that given moment.
Mm-hmm.
And we're too heavy in the masculine. It's more of that doing energy. It's also more of that control. I'm trying to control how everyone's responding to me. So if you notice you're getting agitated, you're not having the response you desire in some ways, that hyper control is like an unhealthy product of conditioning
Mm-hmm.
of masculine energy. Now,
Mm-hmm.
on the feminine side, when we think of in relationship, unhealthy feminine energy would be mm, I'm going to shame, blame, I'm going to manipulate you, partner, into rising to meet me. So instead of being in my divine feminine, I'm going to assert what it is I desire. I'm going to assert this doesn't feel good for me, partner. This is what I'd like when we're out in public, that we speak highly of each other because that's what feels good. That's the kind of relationship I want to be in. Now, in an unhealthy feminine, it might be the wounding, like the shaming, the blaming, like, how could you do that? Like, what's wrong with you? Why are you talking to her? Don't you respect yourself? Saying mean things instead of owning your own hurts.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in business, how would this apply? This could be manipulations or projections to clients. It could be to prospective clients, kind of guilting people into your world, knocking at pain to get people into your world in ways that don't feel good. Instead of, I'm gonna, it's a value exchange, my work. So I'm going to ask you questions. I'm not going to feel bad about it. I'm going to share where I feel I can help. I might give you an invitation, but I don't need to like manipulate you into my program because my program is amazing. I know I'm adding value. I'm speaking out of integrity. And if you're not into it, then you're not into it right now. And that's okay. And so it's like, I'm going to just be on my highest and I'm going to let you make your sovereign choice because that's what feels good in the end.
Mm.
That is a great question. I'm writing that one down.
Thank you. Yeah, that's an amazing answer too. You actually spoke about both the masculine and the feminine in business, and I love that it's so different when it comes to the communication and how you really communicate with your clients, as well as the relationship example that you gave. I think it's just really amazing to
Mm.
see how they both work in business as well as in life, because there's so many times that we're doing it subconsciously and we're not realizing it, and this just brings awareness. This brings a lot of awareness that I might be doing this here, and this is how I could be communicating better to my partner or to my client. This is where I'm projecting, and this is how I could, instead of saying you, go into saying I. And I would love, and having that element of mystery that you spoke about. And I really love that, because I feel like that's a whole game changer for communication. So thank you so much for that. And now moving on to the next question is, how can we bring this seductive energy into our business? And you did speak about that, but what would you say are the benefits of being more natural, more seductive, more yourself, authentic, flirtatious? What do you think are the benefits of doing that and bringing that into your business as well as relationships?
Yeah. What I love about seduction is, and seduction, polarity, mystery, intrigue, you think about, have you watched Alice in Wonderland? Maybe
Yeah,
not.
I have.
You have, okay. So, what does the white rabbit symbolize? The white rabbit, right? It pulls Alice out of her everyday world, out of the real world, and it takes her into this fantasy. It's mystery. It's riddled with curiosity. If Alice knew everywhere that she would go with the white rabbit in that hole, she'd probably say, no, thank you. I'm not going there. Yeah. Now, this is fun. And this is what we want to do with people in
Mm,
businesses. How do we also paint exciting visions of what's possible in our containers?
mm,
How do we speak to transformations in ways that excite them, that they can get behind?
mm,
How do we use visioning to inspire our clients to show up to do the work
mm,
with the transformation? And so this always helps because it brings in play, it brings in likeness to the work. I say the word work, it shouldn't be work. It's play. It's I'm showing up to grow myself and I'm having fun when I do it, because when it's work, it feels heavy. It's we take the joy out of it. We're here to live. And it's that polarity. It's how do I, okay, I'm showing up for myself and I'm having a good time. I love being around this mentor because this mentor, this coach, they make me feel good.
mhm,
And that's why we join people's containers. And so it's bringing that element of play, of seduction, of mystery, and partnership. You want, I give a good example, partnership here. If we want to get our partner to ravish us, if we're a feminine being and you want to feel your partner's ravishment, how do you do that? How do you do that? You have to fan their flames of desire so that they want to ravish you.
mm,
And so it's how do I use seduction verbally, non-verbally? It's also back to the polarity. Partner sitting on the couch. I come by. I give a little hello, good evening on
mm,
their shoulders. Maybe then I walk away. Little elements of tease start to build their flames of desire that then invite in their ravishment. And so, how do we do that in all areas of our life with people?
mm. That's beautiful. That was amazing. I feel like there's I was taking down notes literally when you were talking. I was like, I need to take down notes, and I hope our listeners are doing that right now. But it's amazing. Yeah, I see that, the element of tease, the element of curiosity, mystery, the spark. Y- You can also tell them what you want without actually verbally telling them what you want. Like you said, the non-verbal cues too. So that's a beautiful element too. So thank you for that. And
Yeah.
on to the next question. I read this on something on your Instagram. Okay, so I got this question from your Instagram. How does healing our masculine unlock our feminine? And I was so
Mhm.
curious. I was like, I have to ask you this.
Yeah, so I love this question so much, and it's part of the first book I'm writing.
Oh wow.
How does healing your masculine unlock your feminine? Because mm, when we don't feel, I'm going to give it a relationship example, and then we can also apply it to business too.
Mhm.
When we don't feel secure in our masculine, think of the masculine as it's the groundedness, it's the roots of a tree, it's our knowing of who we are, what we are about, the direction we're going in business, saying something in partnership and standing behind it, the conviction behind our words. Now, when we don't feel secure in that masculine, the feminine can't truly play. I can't truly be vulnerable in partnership. I can't truly initiate a sexy moment because that requires masculine energy to do it if I'm so afraid of the rejection. And so, if I'm not grounded in my masculine, it's not going to truly allow my feminine to surrender, to be truly vulnerable.
Mm,
And we need both to be able to function. Same with business. I'm never going to be fully expressed online if I don't have
mm,
my masculine core that's holding me. Nicola, you got this. Don't worry. You're not getting these responses in these ways. That's okay. That doesn't dictate who you are. That doesn't tie to your value. And
mm,
it's holding ourselves through the tense times,
mm,
whether it's business, whether it's in relationship. And this will help us be better lovers. This will help us be better partners. This will help us be better friends, better daughters, better sisters, better brothers, wives, husbands, coaches, entrepreneurs.
that's amazing. And my next question is, how do you build that co-masculine to support your feminine? How do you build that self-trust, self-reliancy, that cheerleader within yourself where you can just fall back on yourself?
Yeah. This is it's a long, not a hard, but it's a journey. It's a journey. This is the work I do. It's doing work to first heal these aspects um, related to the primary caregiver, the first masculine in our lives. Someone didn't have a masculine caregiver. Who was the person that represented the masculine? Working to heal that relationship, working to then heal our relationship to our own masculine, cultivating masculine energy. And that comes in from
Mm,
many different kinds of practices in the body and the mind to rewire the body, mind, and the nervous system to have that healthy balance.
that's beautiful. Yeah, I'm sure. Like, I love that you um kind of spoke about the masculine caregiver or who that was in our life, because I know it stems from there first. Like, that's what we understand of masculine energy when we're growing up. We look at our fathers or we look at the masculine caregiver and we understand masculinity from there. So I love that you brought that up, because I understand how it really goes back to childhood and it goes back to how you were brought up being a main part. Okay. And my next question would be, how do you think we can really balance these contrasting energies in life and business? And also, could you provide examples from your life of how you've balanced both these energies? Because I've been speaking to people, I have always been in my masculine all my life, and I actually had no amount of, like, it was my wounded masculine. I didn't have a lot of feminine energy growing up. And I've started to understand and inculcate my feminine only last year. And I spoke to a friend who's really a lot in her feminine energy. And I was just so inspired by her because I was the opposite. So I was really inspired by her. And I was talking to her about how she does this, like how she inculcated her feminine and how she has this beautiful trust and surrendering. And she told me that she's actually dealing with the extreme. She's extremely feminine, where she's unable to have the energy of masculine in her life. And she's like, I'm actually inspired by you, with your structure, with your action taking, with you showing up consistently. How are you doing that? And so we both are kind of learning from each other, both the energies. But I feel like that balance, like she used to be extremely masculine and now she's extremely feminine. So she's like swinging on that pendulum. How do you find that balance?
Yeah, great question. So the balance is I'm going to create systems in my business. So I have structure. So my marketing funnels are my systems. Time blocking of my day might be a system. Having set goals in business is part of a system. Your sales process is a system. I have systems, I have goals, I have actions I take, yet I don't attach to how and when to the outcome.
Mm,
And it's a huge uh, point to really let sink in when it comes to intention. I'm doing the actions, but I surrender to you, God, source, higher power, universal energy as to how this path of my life, of my dharma, of my business journey unfolds. And I continue to tune in and to listen in every moment. And that takes discernment for us to know when is it a challenge that we need to work through in
mm,
life or in business and
mm,
persevere, and when is it a sign that we need to shift course
mm,
and reset. And that takes listening. That takes both masculine and feminine, the action, but also the ability to intuit, to tune in. Same in relationship. I'm going to voice what it is I desire, but I'm going to wait and allow you, partner, to rise to meet me or not, to let time show me, to let you show me. I'm also going to take action and play with my energy. This is why my work is also with communication. I'm going to play with how I communicate, with how I show up. I'm going to see how that shifts your energy. I'm going to see how that shifts the collective energy in our relationship. And I'll learn from there. And I also surrender. I not attach. I see that you also show up and you bring in energy to the table. And so it's co creating with life through our balanced energetics.
mm. Oh, that's beautiful. That gave me a lot of food for thought. Like, I feel like I have so much I want to reflect on after this episode,
Mm.
but oh, that's really beautiful. Hmm. Thank you for sharing that with us. And just to end off, could you share how people, if they want to work with you, how they can get in touch with you or how they can learn more about your work?
Yeah, of course. Instagram is the best way to get in touch. It's Nicola Navon and or my website, nicolanavon.com. Shoot me a DM, let me know, how this episode landed, what landed for you, what was interesting. You have any questions, would love to hear it. And yeah, thank you also, Prathana, for having me on. And if you dig this episode, leave her a review. That's how it works in the podcast world. Get more eyes and ears on the pod. So it's always nice to give back in that way.
Thank you so much for that, Nicola. And thank you for being here. All your answers were so beautiful. It's given me so much to reflect on. It's given me so much food for thought. And I've literally been taking notes. So I really, really loved this episode. One of my best, I feel. So many golden nuggets. So thank you so much for being here. And I'm sure I'm going to have a few more questions and I'm going to hop into your DMs to probably ask you about
Yeah,
it if that's okay. But
of course. I
thank you
loved
for
it.
being here. And I really loved this episode with you.
Such a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Well, that was the end of this episode. How freaking amazing. How much did you get out of that? I love that this was so tangible. Like you can literally take notes and apply it in your business today. I am definitely going to apply this in my sales conversations, in my DMs. I'm definitely going to use more play, more mystery, more tease, more seduction when I sell on my stories. And I hope that this has helped you in your relationships as well as in your business. You're listening to Rebel with a Purpose, and I'm Pratna signing off.